All right. So clearly we've cut some corners. So now let's see how we could start implementing things underneath the hood there. Let me go over to gedit here. This is all HTML. Feels like it's going to be time to introduce a bit of PHP. So PHP is now an actual programming language. It's a language that's going to be executed server-side, not inside the browser. So anything we do with PHP is never going to be seen by the user. But using the equivalent of printf, we can write PHP code that spits out HTML, that spits out CSS, and we can dynamically create our web pages. So let me actually go ahead and download some of today's code. Let me go back to lectures. Let me scroll down here, source code, and let me download. Actually, let's do this. I feel like people are getting antsy. Let's take a 2-minute break. I'm going to go ahead and download some code, and then we'll come back and start writing this backend ourselves. All right, so we are back. So it turns out one of my primary extracurriculars in college was actually running with one of my roommates the freshman intramural sports program. And so this was back in the day, almost before the web, whereby if you wanted to register for soccer or frisbee or whatever, you would actually fill out a piece of paper. You would then walk across Harvard Yard, swipe into Wigglesworth, walk to the door of the proctor, who was really in charge of Frosh IMs, and then drop into their mailbox, their door drop, your registration form. And thus was freshman intramural sports. So there were like web servers and web browsers in 1996. And so this was just a kind of a campus problem waiting to be solved. We can do better than trekking across campus to Wigglesworth to register. So having taken at that time CS 50 and 51 toward the end of that year, I decided to learn a language on my own called Perl. Perl is still very much in use, but it's been supplanted by even more modern languages like PHP, Python, and Ruby. But it was with this language that I implemented the first sort of online registration system for Frosh IMs. And it was really simple. All we wanted to do was allow people to go to a web page, fill out a form like this, click submit, and then that proctor could download the equivalent of an Excel file. Or we could even email people to confirm that they had, in fact, been registered. So I tell this particular story, even though it's a different language, in that really, after CS50 and maybe even just one other class, it really is possible to bootstrap yourself and learn most any language that's similar syntactically to C and, as we'll see, PHP. It's very deliberate that we'll spend very little time on JavaScript and PHP relative to C, because you'll see syntactically they're quite similar, and also conceptually they are similar as well. They simply solve different problems more easily. So with that said, here's a web page. Let's actually look at its source code. If I view page source, I'm going to see a bunch of HTML, and there's definitely some new features here. So what's here? I have my doc type, HTML, head, title, a div, text align, center. So this is actually the more proper way to center something in a web page these days. There's an H1 tag, which again means big and bold. Here's a couple of line breaks. Here's a form field. And here's something interesting. Now the action value is actually to a .php file. PHP is, again, a programming language. And because there's no HTTP, it must be that register1.php lives in the appliance, or really in the same web server as whatever file I'm currently viewing. So method equals post. It turns out that not all of the data you send in a URL needs to be transmitted in the clear. In fact, it'd be a very bad thing if your password and credit card number and anything private was just sent to a server via the URL, because one, you can see it. That's not so worrisome. But your roommate can see it if he or she goes poking around your browser history. So thankfully, there's another way to send information from browser to server. And that's not using HTTP GET, but rather it's using something called HTTP POST. And to induce a post, you simply say method equals quote unquote post. So post is going to keep the information out of the URL, but it's still going to send it. All right, so what comes next? There's apparently a table tag here, table row, table data, and this just creates some kind of tabular structure. What tabular structure? Well, behind the scenes here, there's an invisible table. The name, captain, gender, and dorm words are in the left column, and all of the form fields are in the right column there. So that's what's going on there invisibly. And if I go back to the source here, notice some familiar things now. So I see mention of like dorm and gender in captain, applicourt, candidate, grays, greeno. So let's see how these are here, how these are inputted. So name, colon. So this TD tag, table data, this means left column. This next one means right column. And I'm using an input tag that has a name of name, but this means person's name, freshman's name, and then type equals text. I have a text box here. So there's also type equals check box to say yes or no, you want to be a captain for the team. Gender is a radio button. So this is one of these mutually exclusive ones where you can either click this button or this one, and clicking one unchecks the other. And then dorm is a drop-down menu, otherwise known as a select menu in HTML, whereby the name of this HTTP value is going to be dorm, and it comes with a whole bunch of options. So I just typed out option value equals quote unquote for nothing, so it defaults to nothing. Then apply-core, candidate, grays, greeno, and so forth. And notice the dichotomy here. Just like with anchor tags, where you can have a URL that's clickable, but the word you're clicking is different from what the user actually ends up at. Same here with select menus, with drop-down menus. The option value, quote unquote, this is what's going to get sent to the server. This is what the user is going to see. In this case, for simplicity, they're the same. But if you wanted to have a more user-friendly description, maybe more words than just 2, but still just send something succinct to the server, you can do that, hence this dichotomy. And then if I scroll down further, we're almost done with the HTML. Here's my submit button, value equals register, and then the rest of the page gets closed. So let's see what happens when I fill this out. So David, Captain, M, let's say Matthews, register. OK, so I didn't actually implement this side of it either, but I did get redirected to a register1.php file. And it's in this file that we'll see the beginnings of our web programming. So let's go into gedit. Let me go ahead and open up in my frosh.ims directory. First, frosh.ims1.php. So notice a couple of things. Even though, and let me go back to the browser, we started that at this page here, notice what the URL was. Notice that the URL I started at, even though it's only HTML when I look at it, it actually is a PHP page. So here's the interesting thing about PHP. You can commingle your PHP code, which we'll soon see, and HTML, whereby PHP can generate more HTML. And just to make this more concrete, this is actually kind of an inefficient way of outputting dorms, right? Typing out that list of dorms is actually pretty tedious and boring. And if I have multiple websites that ask students where they live, I'm every time copying and pasting or typing out a dozen or so dorms. Well, it would kind of be nice to put that dorm information in a database. Just ask the database, give me all of the dorms, and then have a for loop or a while loop that prints out each of those option HTML tags. And indeed, we can do that. We're not doing it yet, but that's why you might want an actual programming language, so you can ask a database or some other source for information, and then only write like 2 or 3 lines, not a dozen or more. So let's actually look then at frosh.ims1.php. And even though it's called PHP, it's all HTML. So notice that I'm not yet writing any PHP code, but I could be in register1.php. So notice that register1 actually has a bit of code. Let me zoom out so this is all clear. Notice the following features. At the very top of a PHP file, I have open bracket question mark. So this looks kind of like a tag, but the fact that the question mark is right there means this is not HTML. Here comes some PHP. This is necessary because on the server, or in this case the appliance, when the web server notices, this URL ends with .php, that is not a static file. That is not HTML. That is not CSS. That is a program. So the web server is going to notice the .php file name. It is then going to execute this program. It's going to execute the file called register1.php. What does it mean to execute the file? Well, it's going to look anywhere there's an open bracket question mark and then some stuff, followed by a question mark close bracket. The web server is going to execute that PHP code, and whatever that code outputs via printf or similar will be sent to the browser. It doesn't need to output anything, but it can. So let's see what's actually happening here. First of all of this is comments, and for the moment, a big distraction. So I'm just going to delete all of those comments. They're just like C comments, but in this case, we're in the context of PHP. But it looks like, had I actually been a little difficult and not typed in David and Male and Captain and Matthews, I actually would have not submitted this form successfully. So let's actually try that. Let me go back to my browser and not be a cooperative user. I'm going to uncheck that. I'm going to unchoose a dorm, and I'm only going to provide gender and name. And I click register. And now notice it did not submit. All right, maybe it was my mistake. Let me do this again. I'm not going to check. They don't need to know my gender or my dorm. I'm just going to register. Well, apparently they do, because notice I'm going back to frosh.iams1.php. I'm not going to the registration page, it seems. So why is that? In register1.php, there's a very simple branch, a very simple condition. So think back to Scratch, think back to C. The idea is the same, even though the syntax is a little different. Notice what's going to happen here. If empty. So it turns out empty is a function that returns true if the variable you give it is empty. There's nothing there. Otherwise, it returns false. So it turns out this is a variable. So in PHP, what's nice is anytime you submit a form to the server, if you submit using method equals quote unquote post, all of your form inputs are stored in one big variable, and that variable, turns out, is a hash table. Recall that a hash table is a fancy new data structure that you're playing with perhaps for problem set 6, and it allows you to store keys and then values. In the case of problem set 6, if you're using a hash table, the key is the word from the dictionary, and the value is something like yes or no. It's there or it's not there. That's the kind of answer. So in the case of this, the variable here is called $_post. Frankly, it's a stupid name. The fact that there's an underscore is annoying. The fact that it's uppercase, though, at least suggests that it's important. And $_post is a special variable, a hash table, if you will, that you can index into just like an array. So the fact that I'm saying $_post, open bracket, close bracket, and then in quotes inside of it name, means go inside of this hash table and give me the value of the parameter called name. If the user typed in David, that's what I'm going to get back. If the user typed in nothing, I'm going to get nothing back. And so this function empty is going to return true, because indeed the form field was empty. The double vertical bars here mean the same thing as in C. Or if the gender field is empty, or if the dorm field is empty, what do I want to do? Well, I want to do what's inside of this if condition. And what's inside of this if condition? A new function, header. Header takes an argument. And what does this suggest? Where have we seen headers before? Well, think back to Monday when we used live HTTP headers and we sniffed our web traffic. And among the headers were things like get/HTTP and host : and then there was some mention of your browser. There was a lot of interesting or juicy data inside of the headers that we humans don't see, but the browser and server are seeing. Well, it turns out another one of them is the so-called location header. If you've ever visited a website and then been magically redirected to some other website nearly instantly, how is that working without human intervention by you? Well, what the server is doing is if you visit google.com and Google decides, we don't want you using google.com. We want you using www.google.com. What Google's server will send is an HTTP header that looks like this, location, : and then the URL they want you to go to. Let's actually try to see this. Let me go back to my browser. I'm going to go ahead and actually clear my history so that we haven't cached any of the previous Google results. And I'm going to go ahead and open up live HTTP headers, just like Monday. And I'm going to visit not www.google.com, but more specifically http://google.com and hit enter. And notice the URL definitely changed. This is not my browser doing this per se. It's the server, because if I scroll up, notice that here's what I asked Google. Give me / on google.com. And you know what Google said secretly to me? We have moved permanently to http://www.google.com. Now, why? Mostly it's for branding purposes, but also sometimes for technical purposes. It is absolutely possible for both something.com or www.something.com to work. But in Google's case, they've decided that they are branding themselves as www.google.com. We do the same with cs50.net. But if you watch the videos, we chose cs50.tv with no www just because it sounded, frankly, better. And you can do that with your web server. So what this question is asking is, if the user didn't give me a name, didn't give me a gender, or didn't give me a dorm, to hell with them. Redirect them back to the very same URL from whence they came, which is this URL here. And that's exactly what someone like Google is doing. They're not using PHP, but they have an if condition somewhere that says, if not www.google.com, go to google.com. And they will force your browser to actually go to that point. Now, just to fast forward to a teaser, I'm going to go ahead and open up, say, register 8, which is going to be version, nope, not register 8. Let's try register 3. So register3.php is going to be, as we'll see, the third version of where we're going with this. And in this line of code, notice I'm reversing the question. If name is not empty, and gender is not empty, thanks to the exclamation point, and dorm is not empty, what you can do in PHP amazingly simply, or relatively simply, is here are 8 or so lines of code that are going to create a variable called to. As an aside, or as you might have inferred, variables in PHP, just because, all start with $signs. There's going to create a variable called subject. It's going to create a variable called body. This dot operator is concatenation, so this is just a stylistic thing. This is all one huge string, and I'm substituting in the user's name, captain, gender, and dorm into this string. Then this is here just for a from address, and then this. If you want, in a language like PHP, to send someone an email from an arbitrary address to an arbitrary address, much like the proctor might have wanted back in the day, to confirm someone's registration, it's one line of code. It's a function called mail, takes a few arguments, the to field, subject field, body, and any additional email headers, and voila, freshman now has received an email confirmation of their registration. And this is what's going to be really exciting about PHP. Even though we've got some new syntax and some new mental constructs here to think about, doing things that are useful and compelling will consistently reduce to very few lines of code. PHP gives us the same features as C ultimately, but much more user-friendly, much easier to write, and much less code to write. And with it, can we build some amazing things come final project. So with that said, we will see you on Monday.